beetroot I found was very
attention to it.
effective
Just pay
for
attention.
my blood pressure when I ran out of it, and I need to make some more. My blood pressure came back up. So, yeah, and all of a sudden this has turned into whole food pharmacy. FARMACY, and I'm not really like that, but I had to find alternatives to pharmaceutical drugs because they were killing me.
Yes.
So, isn't that interesting how things turn around? Yeah.
Yes.
No, there's
time, yes.
there's uses for all this stuff.
Absolutely every drug has some need.
All right.
Oh, look.
How we do? We
27 seconds
Okay,
left.
we'll add that to our next one. Then we got 3
Nope,
minutes.
that's not how it works.
No, I reclaim my time, Mr. President. All right.
We get 3:30.
All right. Let's see here. Anything from the fluid family there, Dr. Scott?
Let me look back here. And see
Okay,
if I
well,
miss
you
it.
look. Well, I'm going to do this one says organoids fortaceae, and I do not know what this means.
Oh, no.
Yeah, let's see what this is.
Hey, Tacey, it's Pete in Connecticut. I was just listening to your time of topics about the chimeric pigs and thought I'd offer you another topic that you might want to cover, which are these.
Chimeric pigs are pigs that have two different sets of DNA.
Brain tissue organoids. Apparently, researchers have coaxed skin stem cells into becoming human brain tissue and organized them into little blobs of brain tissue that then grow their own sort of eye organs
Get the
and
hell
are
out of here.
capable of sensing light, they've shown.
Ooh.
And now they're implanting them into rats or mice.
No,
who've
don't
had
do that.
the visual center of their brains chopped out, and these rats are incorporating the human
Get
brain
the hell out of
organoids
here.
into their own brains, and they're vascularizing and possibly restoring sight to these little lab mice. You want to talk about moral quandary. Are these organoids sentient? Do they have the possibility of any self-awareness? And are they even potentially human? They're grown in a freaking lab. And now if they're talking about curing blindness with these things, what happens when you put another brain inside your brain?
Right.
Do you now have two of you?
Okay.
Hey, Tacey, it's Pete in Connecticut.
sorry.
Hey, Tacey, it's Pete in Connecticut.
Thank you for Pete's time of topics.
Wow.
It's very interesting.
Okay, so that's not a question, so we can wax eloquent.
No,
on
we're
this.
gonna-
No.
3 minutes.
No.
Starting now.
Talk fast.
Okay. So these are little collections of cells. They may, rather than having whatever, how many cells does the human brain have?
A bunch.
Yeah, let me hang on a second. Echo, how many cells does the human brain have? Oh, she doesn't know.
The human brain contains approximately 80 million cells, although the exact number varies depending on...
That's it? 80 million?
That seems really
Mine
low.
has
80
significantly less.
Billion. Yeah.
Well, okay, it has way more connections than that. But these organoids, they are grown in the lab from stem cells. And they have different cell types, neurons, glia, and they can make sort of an organized architecture. But they're the size of a grain of rice, and I am going to say that these things are not sentient. Now, would they be able to augment sentience in somebody? Like, could you design one of these to increase your ability to do math or to turn everybody into Mozart in the future? Be able to write symphonies at 4 years of age? Maybe. But the fact that you're taking these stem cells and putting it in someone else's brain to stimulate their eyesight or something like that really isn't that different than putting a heart in a heart transplant or something like that. It's just basically a mechanism. These things don't have the memories of the person because memories are not just encoded in the cells, they're encoded in the connections that the synapses make after the cells form. That's the thing. So it's not really possible that you're going to take someone's personality, although it would make a fun science fiction movie, and I'm already working on the treatment in my head right now. Now, they think that these organoids could be used in artificial intelligence. There was a study published in Nature Electronics reported that brain organoid tissue can be connected to a silicon computer chip and trained to recognize human speakers. Now, that still is not sentience. That's, pattern recognition and stuff like that.
Okay.
The large language models that we're using now are not sentient. I don't care how many people talk to these things and get fooled into thinking that they are. The Turing test really isn't a real test for sentience, but they are unthinking left parts of the brain. So the left brain processes speech. You knock it out. The person is still alive. They can still function to a certain extent, but they can't speak anymore.
Okay.
If you just take out just the speech section of the brain.
I'm sorry, Steve. I'm going to have to stop you.
There's no cognition going on, but it would be able to process speech. These things are just little circuits that fit in the brain.
Wow.
Okay.
Cool.
That's cool, though.
That's good stuff.
Yep.
Hey, and I do have a couple questions if you want something.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
you- if you want,
Yeah.
Hey, let's go back to steroids. So, why do I get so ragey if I have to take steroids?
Yeah.
That's a pretty common thing.
Well, there's stress hormones.
Yeah.
And look, what we found in the human body, like when you do EMDR, this is a technique for processing information in counseling. And what they found is if you're in REM sleep, your eyes move back and forth, right? So you're processing information while you're in REM sleep. But if you just make your eyes go back and forth, you'll still stimulate that circuit to process information. So the tail can wag the dog and it will, have the same effect. So if you are under stress, you'll produce these hormones and you'll have all those symptoms of stress.
Yep.
But if you take the hormones, that will cause you to have the same symptoms as if you were under stress, even if you're perfectly relaxed. And that's what it is. Those are stress hormones, and they affect people's sleep. They make them eat more and make them more irritable over time.
Well,
Yeah, it's a really good question.
that's a super good question.
You got another one?
Yeah, I've got two more good ones.
Oh,
actually.
good. Yeah.
So let's see. Hey, Dr. Scott, Dr. Steve, can cervical stenosis cause brain fog?
Oh, now
that is
because of the stellate ganglion, maybe.
depending on the level of the stenosis.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Would be my first
So
thing.
talk about what they're talking about.
So,
Explain it to the layperson.
So stenosis can happen anywhere in any part of the
Tell
body.
them what stenosis is.
Well, I'm getting there for God's sake.
Shit, you're not.
You're
It's
wasting
a
time.
narrowing of a space.
There you go.
So
Very good. Thank you.
It's a narrowing of a space. It can occur anywhere, blood vessels,
Yep.
bones. It can occur, but what we're talking about is inside the spinal cord itself,
Right.
in the spinal column. And if that space becomes too thin, it's just like if I've said before, if you got a water hose and you grab it and you start squeezing the water hose really hard,
Yep.
there's still water going to be going through, but a lot of that water is going to hit your hand and not pass through and creates a a blockage. So what he's asking is if he's got a cervical stenosis, if that can cause brain fog. So real quick, typically
It's actually known to decrease cognition in certain situations. Go ahead.
because it does it limits the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid in and out of the brain. It limits the nerve impulses that can move in and out of the brain too.
Yeah.
And what we'll see a lot of
That's
times,
the important thing.
right. So both those things can,
Limits the brain ability to interpret what the body is sending it,
Right.
and it ends up getting just foggy because it's getting incomplete information.
right.
Go ahead.
And if the cervical fluid is not moving in and out of there,
Right.
which does help with waste that occurs inside the brain, also with nutrients getting in and out, medicines or whatever,
Yeah.
it certainly can cause brain fog. So
I would
yes,
tell this person to Google cervical myelopathy, MYELOP, because that's really the condition that causes that's thought to cause brain fog when you've got stenosis of the spinal column in the neck.
And there are some treatments for spinal stenosis that are non-interventional necessarily. There are some stretches you can do, and certainly maybe some light traction, depending. But you need
I bought a traction device,
but you've got to have imaging done first,
right?
So we don't want to be tugging or poking on anything that we don't know what we're tugging or poking on.
Correct.
Because a stenosis could be from anything from a tumor to a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So have it worked up first. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I used to take people's necks and go with those, and I learned not to do that because there have been a couple of people who've had fatal strokes from having that done. So just be gentle with yourself, but look up cervical myelopathy. Talk to your primary care, and maybe they can help you out.
Lots of interventions.
All right. Very good. Well, listen, we're out of time. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Tacey. Until next time, check your stupid nuts for lumps. Quit smoking. Get off your asses. Get some exercise. We'll see you in 1 week for the next edition of Weird Medicine.
8 seconds.
Hey, Dr. Steve, recently had a colonoscopy. 4 out of 5 polyps were able to be removed. The 5th was too large, and I need to go to another medical center for a second try. Should I be concerned?
Okay, so here's the thing. Some people just make polyps, and they're completely benign. They're called hyperplastic polyps. And my question to Delco Lou, if he can give us that, there's a little bit of delay with the fluid family, but were any of those polyps that they took out, the 4 out of the 5, were any of them anything other than benign? Right. And the good news is that the polyp stage is even if it were precancerous or emerging cancer, it's so early that most of the time that can be treated right then and there in the colonoscopy suite. It usually takes around. The thought is you get an adenomatous polyp, which is the glandular type of polyp. Those are the naughty ones. Mm-hmm. And it'll take 10 years for it to go from the early polyp stage till it turns into cancer. And then it takes even more time before it invades and then metastasizes. So if you do your colonoscopies starting at age 45 or earlier, if you have a first-degree relative that had it,
right.
If you had a first-degree relative that had colon cancer at, 47, you want to do your first colonoscopy at 37. But anyway,
okay.
Yeah. So, but 45 is the new 50.
Right.
And, you do these things, and, as long as you do them on a regular schedule, they'll catch stuff before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And that's also why you want to do a really good prep. Follow the prep exactly, because if you've got stool covering up a small polyp, then they may miss it. Mm-hmm. That will then have 10 years before you get your next thing, and it'll be there.
Then it'll be a problem. Maybe a problem.
But this thing may have been, most polyps are what we call pedunculated. They look like a punching bag, but some of them are sessile, and it's a lot harder to grab one of those. So, if they can't get it, they'll scrape it, look at it under the microscope. If it looks poopy, then they'll go in and they'll just take it out.
Yes. And he said they've been